Welcome to the Venture Xperience podcast, featuring interviews with up-and-coming entrepreneurs and business leaders. Join host Brian Weatherford as we peel behind the curtain into the motivations, tools, and strategies used by successful business leaders.
Welcome to the Venture X podcast. My name is Brian Weatherford. I'll be your host today, but this guy is going to be the guest, and what a guest he is. He is the president of Venture X, and I'm really honored to have him here today. I've got questions. He's got answers. His name, Jason R. Anderson. Jason, welcome aboard. How are you?
Good. Pleasure to be here, Brian.
Well, I appreciate you coming in. I mean, you're the president of Venture X, but I want to back up just a little bit. I'm really curious, and I know everybody is. Give us a little bit about your background leading up to where you are and how you got to become the head honcho for Venture X.
Sure. So quick story. Again, I was born in upstate New York, youngest of 10, grew up in Atlanta, joined the military at 17, got out the service, moved here to Dallas, and started into real estate. Started my own real estate brokerage here, grew that. And like a lot of companies, I was looking to expand, ended up franchising my real estate company. That led me to United Franchise Group. Mm-hmm. My personal friend, partner, and mentor, Ray Titus, started Signarama in 1986. His father started the Minuteman Press franchise in 1976. Wow. So I've been with Ray now for 10 years, and I was part of the team that helped turn Venture X into a franchise back in 2015. And when United Franchise Group took over the brand in 2019, I've been the president since that day. So that's my life history there in about 60 seconds.
What a life history has been, and in its own way, it's still just getting started. Because let's be honest, the co-working industry, it's not as new to you as it is to most people.
Sure.
But even as we sit here today, the co-working industry today is nothing like it'll even be tomorrow. Talk to me about the growth of it, particularly on the franchise end, which is your expertise.
Absolutely. So I was fortunate to be an early adopter of flexible office space. So as I mentioned to you, I had a real estate brokerage, won a few awards with that, but I didn't have the means and resources or really the guts to sign this big lease and put my name on the top of a building. So I started at a Regus here in Dallas, right? So it's kind of a bad word here. I don't want to say that too much kind of on camera, but back in 2007, if you were in a flexible office space, you were really looked at as a second-class business citizen. People didn't really understand it. They didn't understand you walk in and there's a bunch of different businesses there. They were like, do you own the whole building? So point blank, co-working was not cool back in 2007. Okay. Then there was a big renaissance with, another kind of a well-known competitor came into the industry, kind of made the whole thing cool. Mm-hmm. Now we're at a point where I look at co-working similar to Uber versus taxi. Right. So once you've got into an Uber, you're probably never going to go back to getting into taxis again. So very similar, we find now in today's world, when most people come into flexible office space, they're not leaving and going back. Mm-hmm. So right now, flexible office space only makes up about 5% of the total office space market in the United States. All the big players have said that number is expected to grow to at least 30% over the next 10 years. So there's definitely a up and to the right growth curve for flexible offices.
I want to back out just a little bit because a number popped in my head. 2007 is when this thing got rolling. There's a little bit of a shift in the economy in 2008. Did that end up in its own weird way having a positive influence on your industry, you think?
It did. I mean, several of these different recessions and kind of dips in, the business climate have helped flexible office space because people realize everybody from your big PwCs, all the law firms and the ivory towers downtown, they realize that instead of having their people drive into Manhattan or downtown Dallas, they could work from Parsippany or Plano or be in their own community. Really now you even have the government allowing people to work remote. So a lot of those different recessions that we've seen have really helped this industry. That is a true statement.
And obviously the pandemic, not necessarily a recession, but certainly a eye-opening way for a lot of us. The whole work from home concept has been toyed with in different degrees, but it exploded last year. And now it's to the point to where people are more comfortable with it, both as the employee, but more importantly, as the business owner and whatnot. I think that's got to even bode well for you as we continue to grow.
It has. I mean, so not too many people have ever had the pleasure of working from home before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But now that they've had the pleasure to do it, some of them realize that they cannot accomplish anything at home, right? Whether it's from cooking, cleaning, kids, pets running around. So now people realize that they really want someplace to come to. And we're seeing it more and more, everything from students to teachers to online coaches to, again, the large organizations, your State Farms, your Allstates. Everybody's moving their people into flexible offices at this point. So private, and that's one of the things we focus on. At Venture X, we're less of the community open space and more of the private offices, which helped us with social distancing and all the things that became key buzzwords last year.
You were already doing it before it was cool.
We were already doing it before it was cool. Yes, sir.
Well, and the other thing too, I want to make sure everybody understands, and again, you're the perfect guest in so many areas. Yes, the big boys are hopping in and doing this, but if somebody's just getting started and all they need is the one little space so they can do their graphic design work and turn it into bigger, you're right there for them, just like you are the big ones too.
Absolutely. So I have actually a friend of mine that offices out of the Venture X that I office out of. He started a business. He left corporate America. He was an executive at Pepsi, right? So he was looking to start his own digital marketing company. He came in with just him and his wife. Over the last 3 years, they've grown to 3 offices in that space, over a dozen employees, and they're getting to the point where they may actually sadly outgrow the space. But it's been really great to see kind of his growth and development and kind of how him being in our ecosystem, some of his biggest clients are actually Venture X locations. So not only did he grow and build his business, Venture X was a part of that growth.
Wow.
Right. So that's also been happening kind of location by location also.
Well, and let's be honest too, he's bigger today than he was on day one. But if he had to jump in on day one and lease traditional space, never could have got there, wouldn't have had the capital.
He could not have done it. Right.
No.
So he definitely could have not went from 1 to 2 offices to 3 offices, have flexible terms, and then be looking to possibly open up his own building. Now he's at the point he's grown so quickly. So Venture X has been a vital part of kind of his growth curve in his business.
Talk to me a little bit about the people who are interested in purchasing franchises with the company. I mean, it's very diverse. I mean, it's a little bit of everybody out there. Is there a such thing as the stereotypical Venture X person, or is it a little bit of, are we all over the board?
Sure. So it is a little bit all over the board. We have a very diverse ecosystem. But when we were first starting, we really looked at the hospitality industry. So there's a lot of similarities between hotel franchises and Venture X. At the end of the day, we're both getting spaces, whether we're purchasing or leasing them, furnishing them and renting them out by the day of the week or potentially long term. So when we first started, we really targeted the hotel operators, people that already had experience running Courtyard by Marriott's, Hampton Inns, Hilton's, because they understood franchising in the customer service business. But we've had a lot of success with entrepreneurs coming out of their own businesses, CEOs, CFOs, CPAs, all the acronym guys and women coming out of corporate America. So we have a very diverse ecosystem of our franchisees.
Well, it's just such a unique thing. And I think, well, I've interviewed your marketing guy before, and he and I both agree, if you just get people in the door the first time, the wow factor alone will sell the place.
Absolutely, right? So we pride ourselves on being that 5-star flexible office operator. We saw in the marketplace, there was some 3-stars, some 4-star. We never wanted to be the beer on tap, skateboard parking. We wanted to be the more professional, upscale type of flexible and professional office space. We wanted you to have the feeling of walking in to the JW Marriott, the Conrad, the Four Seasons, and kind of get that professional feel, not the young hip vibe. You know, we weren't going for skateboard parking. And I think that's just rang very well and true with our clients.
It absolutely has, and not with your clients, but their clients. And what
Absolutely.
I mean by that is you give people a professional environment that frankly they probably couldn't do on their own. And it's just the sense of pride they get to when they bring, hey, let's meet at my office. Wow, you really are a big deal. I need to do business with you. I mean, do you get that?
Absolutely. And another one of the testimonials from a client, a tenant at one of our spaces on the website, was he was at another firm, another co-working space, and they actually had a Nerf gun wall, which would have been awesome when I was in my 20s starting my own business. But in the middle of a day, he was in a meeting, a professional meeting, and somebody started a Nerf gun war, right? So he's sitting there with the client, and Nerf gun bullets are flying around the room. And he told himself, I can't do this anymore, right? I just needed a more professional space. So we have seen that happen over and over time again.
Well, and by the same token, the client probably said, I'm not going to work with this guy.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's a clown. I'll
Doesn't
find
look good at
somebody
all.
else. You know, the other thing too, we keep using the word co-working, flexible space and everything. It's starting to come around a little bit, but for the longest time, people would transpose the words executive suite and co-working space. You've done such a great job in showing people immediately what the difference is between the two.
Absolutely. And right, we started using the term pro-working. We thought we could make that kind of cool and hip. Never caught on like we thought it would. But that really kind of explains what we are, which is just a professional, flexible office space, right? So we have used the term executive suites. Co-working tends to relate to more of the open kind of community space, essentially just a step up from what you would get out of Starbucks. But as you can see, our experience is much more private and professional.
And it's professional in so many different areas. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot and make you name alphabetically the location of every one.
Sure.
But just give me a thumbnail. Like, for example, where was the first one? How many states are you in? How many units are there now?
Absolutely. So the very first Venture X was in Naples, Florida in 2012. Started conversations about franchising in 2015. Started franchising in 2016. Franchise number 1 opened up in Canada, actually. Number 2 was down in San Antonio. Number 3 was right here in Dallas. So we've now grown in just 5 years of franchising to 46 locations now in 5 countries.
And then that doesn't necessarily mean that you only have 46 owners. You have some owners that own multiple locations.
We do. So in that 46, we have people that own entire countries like Canada, India, the UK, Spain, Costa Rica. So those locations are going to have 10, 15, possibly 20 over time. So collectively, we already have over 125 agreements signed. Now, in those 5 years, we've had 27,000 people inquire about owning a Venture X, and we've only selected and approved about 60 franchisees total in that 5 years.
Well, that speaks volumes right there. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, not just because you have a checkbook, does that mean you're going to get on board? There's a little more to it as far as the brand and the camaraderie and everything.
There is a lot more to it. Yeah. So one of the benefits we have is we were a franchise company that actually got into co-working, not the other way around. So that served us very well. Again, Ray Titus started Sinorama in 1986 and has been franchising for 35 years now. So our experience and our understanding in doing that, we definitely have a mapped out process of helping a franchisee get in. We've structured it similar to that of you buying a home, right? If you found a house, you just don't say, I like it, I'm going to close tomorrow. Right, you're going to put an earnest money deposit down. You're going to go through inspections, financing, contingencies, appraisals, all of those things. So we structured it in that same format in a completely kind of refundable application fee process. So that gives the franchisee the comfort of doing their own due diligence. At the end of the day, we give the final approval, and then we move forward if it makes sense.
And a big part of, obviously, that due diligence is the location of where they're going to build it. And you don't want to be just everywhere.
Absolutely.
There's some places you'd rather not be because of the brand and it impacts all the other franchise owners.
It does, right? So we've never had the privilege of having venture capital or some outside where we could just look at a map and say, hey, it would be cool to have a location there. Every location has to be approved by the franchisee who's signing on the dotted line and us as the franchisor. And we even have third-party resources to help people make that educated decision on those locations.
And then do you have design teams? I mean, I understand each location is going to have its own personality, if you will, but there's got to be some sort of a commonality factor to where when I walk in, because as a member, I'm a member of all of them.
Sure.
So when I walk in, I know right away, yeah, this is a Venture X. I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Absolutely.
But I know I'm in a Venture X. So you're able to work with the people as far as that, give them a little flexibility on what they're going to do, but maintain the overall brand that you've worked so hard to develop.
That's correct. To give you a rough example, it's truly about 85% is our brand standards, right? Which we've had high level furniture, the sliding glass doors. We like to have open light, open windows, soundproof rooms, but they have about 15% or so flexibility in kind of localizing and customizing it. Also, us being a privately owned company, we can work with unique real estate. For example, one of our locations here in Dallas used to be a Mexican restaurant that I used to go to happy hour at back in my brokerage days.
Okay.
And that's, one of our most successful locations down by the Dallas Galleria. So we've had a unique opportunity to take over some cool and unique spaces. And if they had things like a real live living moss wall or chandeliers put into some place, I'm not going to tell them to tear down the chandeliers. We figure out a way to blend our aesthetics sometimes around what's already there. So it's an 85-15 kind of split that way.
And then last but not least, I could talk to you forever. I may talk to you more when we get done. You're a busy man. You have things to do. But as far as the sizes, are there various sizes? I mean, everything, it's not a football field.
Sure.
Everything's not 10,000 feet. I mean, that varies by location too. You have minimums, maximums, anything like that.
It does. And right, it kind of holds true. Everything's bigger in Texas, right? So having 13 locations in Texas has really taken that number up. The original very first location was only 8,000 square feet. That owner has come back now and built an over 20,000 square foot second location that they've developed. Right now, my average square foot is right at 20,000 square feet. And domestically, we look for a minimum of about 15,000 square feet. We have some opportunities to go a little bit less than that if the person owns the building or if it's truly in like a direct downtown kind of CBD market. We looked at a property in San Francisco, for example, where you just can't get 20,000 square feet in downtown San Francisco. So we would consider smaller. Also international, we may have to have smaller locations, but 20,000 is the average here in the United States.
Are there multi-level locations or is everything on one level?
There's some locations that are 3 levels. There's some locations that are split, like the 1st and 5th floor. There's some that are split sideways. We have a location here that's actually expanded twice. So it has the original and it's expanded horizontally 2 other times also.
As space becomes available, they can like an amoeba, just kind of surge out there and get into it.
And we even have a few internationally that we have venture-like annexes, where it's a second, kind of add-on office space in the same development that maybe the property owner owns.
And then if you get into one that's bigger than the normal 20,000 square, maybe it's Venture Extreme. That's
absolutely. There we go.
Well, I tell you what, I could talk to you forever, but I just love the facility, and I want you to know I've interviewed more than a few members that are a big part of it, and they just that they'd be honored to meet you like I am today. Awesome. But they're truly honored to be members of such a great thing, because again, it doesn't matter if they need this much space or they continue to grow like your friend has. You're there for them in so many ways, and the whole community thing. The aspect of everything that's out there. This is just something that people really need to get on board with. And as we continue to change throughout the world and the business thoughts of leaders continue to change and realize, this working out of the office thing is actually kind of working. I know you're going to continue to grow, and I wish you all the best. But for today, thanks for coming on the show, sir.
Thanks, Brian.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, as always, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate you going on the Venture Experience with us once again right here on our podcast. We couldn't do it without you. Take care. We'll catch you next time.
Venture X is a locally owned and globally connected portfolio of co-working spaces providing businesses with on-demand office space and services to run their company. To book a tour, visit www.venturex.com. When you need a space for your next business, X marks the spot.